my first wife, her parents are from Michigan. They couldn't get work. I mean, he's a PhD chemist. And so they went south to teach at Alabama in Montgomery. And her sister, Jackie, came back to Montgomery to get married. She went to Michigan State. And there was a young pastor who had just arrived in Montgomery in 1954 who performed the ceremony. And we spent some time together. And he basically was talking about, not giving up and to keep trying. And a year later, when the Montgomery bus boycott took place, that pastor was Martin Luther King. And I spent, 2 or 3 days with him when he first got to town, and he had more time, I should say. And so we struck up a relationship, and I didn't think much of it anymore until the boycott took place. So I went back and I changed the ending of the book to, I tried and I continue to try, because that was Martin Luther King, is that everybody has to keep trying. You don't give up hope. You have to keep trying. And if that is the one message that I can give to young people, that in spite of the setbacks, you have to keep, but first of all, you can't fight the system if you yourself are not on it. And that's important, because some of our leaders can't fight the system because they're too vulnerable. And if you're going to fight the system, you have to be clean. It is also true that most law enforcement people are honest, decent people, and so forth, and have never fired their pistol. But there are a significant number of people in law enforcement that are not as scrupulous. But those were the gatekeepers in my day. They were the people who enforced de facto segregation. And also the school teachers were somebody happened to me at Columbia. It's in the book. When I was in engineering school, the assistant dean of the School of Engineering told me, switch to teaching, because you'll never get a job, which was true in that day, but things change. You have to be prepared to walk through the door. The door can be open, but if you don't have the ability to walk through the door being open doesn't mean much. In fact, that's the significance of the cover of the book. You see that open door on the mountain in the background. Is that the door is open, but you still got to climb that mountain. I think people are beginning to respect black abilities, whereas before you almost had to have a white person to vouch for you. And I think there are more and more examples of people who are successful. I mean, for example, I think his name is Robert Smith, who's a billionaire. I don't know whether you know that name, but he's from Colorado. And he's an engineer, chemical engineer. I think he went to Cornell, as I recall. But anyhow, there are more and more people. I mean, the fact that Barack Obama became president. There are more and more success stories. And I think, as I point out in the book, and it's not me, I'm really echoing what many, many people have said, is that you need to get an education. You need to be prepared to walk through the doors when they open. The doors can open, and if you're not prepared, you won't be able to go through. That's my sort of overriding advice, is to get as best an education as you possibly can. And education doesn't necessarily mean that you have to go into physics or mathematics, but be good and preferably excellent at something. If you're excellent at almost anything, you can succeed.